All right, hello and welcome. My name is Brian Wilson. I work for Atlantic Prevention Resources, where I'm the project coordinator for Join Together Atlantic County, a countywide substance misuse prevention coalition. Today is session 3 of what has traditionally been part of a slide program delivered in schools for staff and administrators. We're breaking down that presentation into multiple virtual sessions that are being recorded and will be posted to the JTAC website. We are asking all participants to please remain muted throughout the presentation and feel free to turn off your cameras as well. At the end of the session, an evaluation link will be posted in the chat box. We ask that you please complete that evaluation. Also, attendees will receive an email allowing you to submit questions for the speakers. The questions you submit will be used to create a frequently asked questions fact sheet and also shared with attendees and posted on the JTAC website. Our first presenter today will be Cynthia Torres. Cynthia Torres is the Atlantic County Youth Works Supervisor. Youth Works is a workforce development board program funded by Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act and provides services and supports to youth with barriers to employment and education. Next, we will have Nina Stolzenberg. She's the Director of Vocational Services at Jewish Family Service. Nina started as a director for children's service and has taken the lead for the last 7 years in developing this work, which is informed by her long history of serving children with developmental and behavioral needs. And our last presenter today will be Mike O'Brien, who is the Jewish Family Service Vocational Supervisor and oversees their work through DVRS, as well as the Pre-Employment Transition Services and Bridges program. Prior to being at JFS, Mike had over 20 years classroom experience working with at-risk students. And now I'd like to turn it over to Cynthia to start us off for today. Cynthia?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is our slideshow right here. It explains a little bit of Atlantic County Youth Works. It's a WIOA Youth Opportunity Act. Everybody sees it okay?
Yes.
So youth may be able to attain a variety of services, from work readiness skills to occupational skills to high school equivalencies, tutoring, additionally grant for occupational training that are 1 year or less. So if they are interested like in something like HVAC or CNA or any of those opportunities that they're looking for, or job training that they're looking for. Additionally, we are hiring a job developer. So once they complete the activity or the job training, the goal of the job developer is connecting them to those jobs in the area and assisting them in finding employment post the activity, post the job training. So those are some of the things available in what we do here at Atlantic County One Stop on the second floor. Of course, who's eligible? There are 2 categories under youth. So there's in-school youth, which is 14 through 21 because of school age and mandatory school activities. So 14 through 21, and the goal for that is to eventually get them into completing high school and enroll them into any of the activities that assist them to getting into jobs, in-demand careers. Out-of-school youth are 16 through 24. And yes, they consider youth up to the age of 24, and based on the age of educational enrollment, of course, school enrollment, they are required to be in school until 16. So if they are no longer attending school by the age of 16, they are considered out-of-school youth and may fit the eligibility criteria for one of our services in our program, in our office. I'm not going to read all of these off to you, but these will match up with out-of-school youth. This is in-school eligibility barriers. And like Brian said, our programs are based on eligibility, them having a barrier. So for instance, for in-school youth, they must be first low-income individual and then have an additional barrier. One of those barriers is basic skills deficient, which is defined as a youth or a person that scores 8.9 or lower on our basic skills exams. We use CASAS here, and we test for reading and math levels. Those and thus those reading and math levels, if either of those scores are 8.9 or lower, then they're considered basic skills deficient. Of course, English learner, language learner, offender status, homeless, any of these on this list will fit the criteria, including pregnancy, youth with disabilities. And it's very similar to out-of-school youth, but on the out-of-school youth side, they don't always have to be basic. They don't always have to be low income. They can be just a high school dropout. They can be just homeless. They don't have to meet the low income criteria, as you see here. Foster care youth, individual that's pregnant or parenting, these are all considered barriers to employment and or education, which would fit the criteria under WIOA. Okay. Here's some of the documentation that may be required for them to complete the paperwork. If they are 18 years or younger, they must be accompanied by a parent to complete this documentation, and or a parent, guardian, or a guardian, sorry. And of course, all of this will be information will be provided when they come in, and we will make sure to reiterate everything that they need to provide. Basic skills testing is done through our office, through CASAS testing, and I think I mentioned that before. But it is a good way for us to assess their tutoring needs. So if they wanted to enter into a occupational training, they must meet a specific score to enter into a specific training. So if they're interested in getting their CDL, then they should be at the very least a 6th grade level in both areas of math and reading. And if they score below that, then we offer tutoring for them to reach those scores. Now, if they wanted to do LPN, which is nursing or anything like that, then they have to have higher scores, which closer to like an 11 or a 12. And then we provide tutoring for them to reach those goals. If they have an IEP, we always recommend that they provide that IEP, especially for untimed testing purposes, and that way we can make those accommodations. All of our youth are required to do an individual service strategy plan, or an ISS. This is an individualized plan for the specific youth involved in the program, be it goals, education, employment, all of that is written into the plan, and thus they have a guidelines as to while they complete the activities and are able to meet goals and go into the education and programs that they need and work ready. This may include high school preparation, high school equivalency of preparation, tutoring to enter into post-secondary or occupational training, work readiness, any of those above. We may do job development. Right now, it is not through these agencies, but we have job developers in our office that will be providing those services now. Youth may earn stipends and incentives by participating in some of these programs. And every ISS is required to do 14 elements, at the very least 4 of those elements, which again, it just specifies and outlines the detail of the activity. So if they're tutoring, if they're working towards post-secondary education or anything like that, we just outline it and detail it so that they know the exact goals that they want to reach and attain. And it continues. I'm going to go back real quick. Supportive services is a requirement for all youth. So we may provide transportation, cost of testing. If they get a job, we may assist with cost of their in uniforms, and stuff like that. So supportive services is part of the activities that we provide. These are some of the current providers that provide in-school youth services. So we have a contract with Boys and Girls Club and Atlantic County Special Services. So the Boys and Girls Club services the entire Atlantic County area. They must be enrolled in school. And the focus of their education will be hospitality, technology, and healthcare. They actually attain a certification in one of those fields. So for instance, if they're in hospitality, they may attain the food service serve safe management certification. If they're in healthcare, they'll attain CPR and first aid certification. And under technology, they'll get the Adobe certification. So depending on which career field they choose, they may attain certification while they're in that program. And that one's located specifically at the Teen Center in Atlantic City. They also provide those supportive services. Atlantic County Special Services School District, they must be enrolled at Atlantic County Special School District, and they tend to focus on youth that are in their senior year in their school district. Currently, we have 2 out-of-school youth contracts. Ideal Institute, which focuses on technology, music production, among other things. They're currently located at the Hamilton Mall, the Pleasantville, and they also have a location in Atlantic City on the Walk. Stockton focuses on hospitality, and they are also located in Atlantic City at their campus in Atlantic City. Both of these contracts are currently open. So this may change for July 2021 contract year. And of course, there's that occupational training. And this one is really important for those who are graduating high school this year. For those kids who want to trade and they're gonna, instead of going to traditional college, they may be able to apply for a grant that pays up to $5,000 towards going to one of the state-approved training programs throughout New Jersey. It must be a career in demand. They must be 18 at the time. If they don't have a high school diploma, then we work towards that first. Then we work towards enrolling them into an occupational training. And of course, they must meet the criteria of the CASA scores. Every time that, as of right now, I know it says offered first floor office every Tuesday and Wednesday. But of course, as you know, COVID has limited our public access. So a lot of things are now by appointment only. So if they're interested, they need to contact our office so that we could schedule them in here. But in the scheme of it, the goal is to get them employed and get them trained and employed into career fields that are in demand, specifically in our area. Okay. And I'm just gonna stop that. We do currently have a summer youth contract that just recently started. We are taking applications for that. If you go online to Learn, Train, Work AC, they actually have a PowerPoint on there with all the details and information. The applications, we're still accepting applications until June 15th for our second cohort, which starts on July 5th. So I know some people were like, I had to get the application by May 20th. You still have time, especially for those kids that are currently in school. We want you to get those applications in. I still have open spots. I think I'm currently at about 35 applications and we're trying to fill 80 spots. It pays $12 an hour. It is 8 weeks of job training. The first 2 weeks is work readiness. So they learn skills such as interview, resume writing, There's financial literacy and a combination of those things. That portion of the program is offered through ACC. They actually get paid for that. That's a 35-hour program. But for those 35 hours that they're sitting in that virtual classroom, it is $12 an hour while they're sitting in there. Once they complete that, then they will begin their internship at the selected locations. That is based on job matching. So as they fill out the application, they enter the career interests that they have, and I try to match them as best as I can to their career interests. That being said, that sometimes I can't always match them because of age restrictions. So if they're interested in a medical program, I can't always put them in there if because of HIPAA related items. So sometimes I'll have to put them in something more like a daycare or some kind of facility that's open to 16, 17-year-olds. So we've had that happen, but the applications are still open. Please have them apply. Please have them write their career interests on the vocational forms. And that's just open for, still open until June 15th. And I'm still doing the job matching. If anybody has more, and they would fill out the application, bring it right here to either the One Stop, or they can email me the application to my email address at torres_aclink.org. So I think I'm done, unless you guys think I need to cover something else.
Thank you, Cynthia. Next, we have Nina Stolzenberg, Director of Vocational Services at Jewish Family Services.
And actually, I'm gonna present for Mike and I. And then if you ask hard questions, then he gets to answer them. Anyway, Cynthia's a hard act to follow, but I will do the best that I can. And I'm assuming you guys can see my screen share now. Okay, excellent. So we have a range of services to support individuals with barriers to employment, and they're either grant funded through a vendorship with the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services or the Division of Developmental Disabilities. So first, I'm going to talk about bridges to employment, and you're going to notice a lot of overlap with some of what Cynthia talked about because we work with her very closely on this program. So this is a state-funded program, but it kind of lives with or interacts with the county. So it's that out-of-school youth population that Cynthia was talking about, ages 16 to 24. But specifically, they're individuals with disabilities. And it can be any type of disability. So, you know, it might be someone with a learning disability, somebody with a medical or physical disability, or a developmental disability like autism. And we work with them to kind of look at what the next steps in their career are. And it blends some of the same services that Cynthia talks about, but with a little bit more case management. And we can also, as she described, provide some supported services like funds for bus passes, IDs, and also things like assistance with transportation. So if somebody needs to get connected with Access Link, we can make that connection. If somebody needs to learn how to, so, you know, maybe they've signed up with Access Link, or they know that they can use the bus, but they haven't done it before, we can provide one-on-one transportation training. We also have done some training with the Anti-Poverty Network for individuals that are lower income and have other barriers to employment to kind of have a bigger picture and maybe understand that a little bit more. So again, it's anyone 16 to 24 in Atlantic County who has a disability. And it can be, they have a 504 plan, an IEP, or any other documentation that shows that they have a disability that interferes with their taking that next step in their career and that they need some more supports. And then they're either disenrolled or graduated from school. And then they want to go to work, go to school, join the military, or receive some type of job training. And so what we're trying to do is link them to one of those things. I won't read all of this to you because I'm sure you guys can read it very nicely. We do try to link people who are interested in employment with DVR because this is a time limited program. So if people need those longer term supports, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services can refer them for supported employment so that they can kind of have that long-term support so that, you know, once they get a job, if they develop new job tasks that they're supposed to learn, or if they have a change in manager, they have somebody there to kind of help them be successful in that job. This program does do 90-day follow-up. And, you know, as Cynthia had said, again, you know, they're required to take the CASAs. You know, there's also an ISS completed and goals kind of looking at where do they want to go and what can we do be helpful to take them there. And these are some of the different types of things that we do. One that I just wanted to note is a lot of families have questions if somebody's receiving SSI disability payments about how that impacts their ability to work. So we do help set people up with consultation with an agency that talks about, you know, how does that work? How much can you work and maintain your disability payments? Or is there a point where maybe you want to not retain those, where it makes more sense to not have that anymore? And then Mike supervises that program, among other things. And so I will ask Kathy to send out this information, or Brian, you guys will tell me who's better. But you can either email him or call him and he can help get people connected. We also, through a contract as well, although this is going to be moving to a vendorship, we believe, provide pre-employment, pre-graduation employment transition services. This is one of those acronyms that I'm hoping to learn someday, but I've yet to be successful in remembering it for more than 30 seconds. So this is that in-school population, you know, 14 to 21, where they, when they graduate, they want to go into competitive employment. And it helps them kind of start exploring that a little bit, learning what work is like, start developing a resume, have something on their resume. You know, it's a lot easier to get a job if you've had some type of experience. The referrals typically come through schools, and up to this point, we've provided those services in coordination with the school, and we're always going to work with the school, but that may be done on a more individual basis going forward. So, you know what, so there's a piece of this that's kind of more workforce readiness, but then kids also get a chance to go out and visit different jobs and see what that's like. So there was a young man who worked with Mike last year who had worked before. He'd always done landscaping. And then we, after talking with him and kind of looking at what his skill set was, he had the opportunity to work at a law office and do some clerical work there. And he was like, I never knew I could have an inside job and do this type of work. So it just kind of opened his mind to some different possibilities for him. So it lets kids kind of see what does that work actually involve. Because I think a lot of us, you know, we think we know what we want to do. And then when we get there, we find out it's different. Like nobody told me when I got my degree in psychology that there were going to be Excel spreadsheets. I think I still would have gone into the field, but I'm not really sure.
Lena, if I could just add real quickly
Yes.
to that one student, there are other benefits too that he didn't realize. I mean, he was, you know, self-employed. He cut lawns, he created gardens, and he always felt like that was just kind of low-level thing that's all he could do. And I was trying to explain to him, which did actually break through pretty quickly. Just it never occurred to him that he was doing a lot of business functions himself that none of these other kids had ever done. He was setting prices. He was walking from house to house selling his services. If there was a problem with the way the service was being provided, he was negotiating back and forth with what, you know, how can I solve the problem? And he's like, he didn't realize, you know, that there's a lot of things go into what he was doing. And I think because of this program, not only did he learn that he could maybe work in an office, which he, in his mind, was a higher form of way to make a living, but he also didn't realize, his esteem rose in what he'd already done and already accomplished, and I think is going to serve him moving forward about what he can do next.
So should I go on a little bit? Okay. So the next program I'm going to talk about is not as youth oriented. So it starts at age 18, but the youth that we work with often have family members. And so I just wanted to kind of throw this out there. It's called Pathways to Recovery, and it works with anyone who's a resident of Atlantic County who's impacted by opioid use. So it doesn't mean that that person necessarily used opioids. It could be an older youth who has, say, a parent who used opioids and it impacted their family, or a parent who's raising kids on their own because their significant other had used opioids. And it's someone who wants to work, who's underemployed or unemployed. And it helps focus on the resources and the services needed for work to be successful. We also are able, in its current iteration, for people who want to work as peer recovery specialists, we can help them get that training, and we can help link them to employment. One of the goals of this grant is to get 10 people hired as peer recovery specialists. We had 8 hired with the last grant iteration, and then going forward, we need to get 10 more people jobs. So if there's people that interested, that's great. And we're partnering with John Brooks and the Hanson Foundation and other local recovery providers. And Chris Barone oversees that program. But anything you have questions about, if you, Mike or I, can connect you with anyone at JFS if there's something else that you need. So I was a lot quicker than Cynthia. I'm not sure if that's seen as a positive. I don't know that I'm as well spoken. And I'm clearly not as well groomed. But did you guys have any questions? So Brian, I'll hand it back over to you to decide what we do next.
All right, thank you, Nina. That was very good. And thank you, Mike. An evaluation link has been posted in the chat box. Please take a moment to complete that so we have feedback for our future presentations. Participants are live recording will receive an email inviting you to submit questions for our presenters. If you watched a recorded version of this presentation through our website, you will see a question box below the recording, so you may submit questions as well. We will email all attendees the information for future presentations, as well as the link to the archived presentations on our JTAC website. Thank you all for joining us today.